What I'd like to do now is speak about preparation. You see where we're at, kind of we're on page 6, and in preparation for serving as an extraordinary minister. Again, Deacon Roger mentioned about just our prayer life in general, and just our whole notion of Mass is that is the highlight of our week as we come and we kind of go up the mountain again to meet our God, and then the rest of the week is the time that we're living our life. So we're preparing to serve all throughout the week, immediately in preparation for serving as ministers of Holy Communion. We would do our hour fast before participating in the Mass. And let me just say, here at St. Dominic, that can be a challenge sometime for us because we have some wonderful food over in the hall every Sunday morning. So what I would say is that if you are scheduled to serve or you're coming to Mass, just as everyone truly, there should be an hour fast before coming to church. Why do we do that? We want to be hungry for the Lord. That is what it all is about, is being hungry for the Lord. And that's what the point of the fast is. As far as dress is concerned, let's look at the procedures. That's on the other page, because I kind of was a little bit more clear, I think, in this. We also would like to make sure that everyone who is scheduled, please be here 15 minutes before Mass. That way the sacristan will help you to sign in. That way we'll know if there are additional ministers that we need to find. And so please be here 15 minutes before Mass begins. And dress appropriately for your ministry. Remember, you are an example for the congregation. We very much would like to see people dressed modestly and nicely. I always say you cannot overdress for church. You can't. It's not possible. And so, as a very minimum, what we would like to have as a rule for distributing Holy Communion, there should be no jeans, no shorts, no t-shirts, no skirts hemmed above the knee, no bare shoulders, no low-cut blouses. And so if that means you have to have a little covering, for the distribution of Holy Communion, just bring a little sweater or something like that with you. But we want to be dressed nicely. Again, you cannot overdress. And part of what we want to truly stress, and I know that Father Pete, we have our announcement before Mass, to not be talking, in church and things like that. We're trying to stress reverence. And part of the way that we demonstrate reverence is through our dress. So if you are scheduled for being an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion, be sure to dress properly. Notice number 3 on the procedures. Non-scheduled extraordinary ministers should check in to see if you are needed to fill in. For those of you who are new, that would be over here at the sacristy, because the sacristan is the one, with the exception of the 10 o'clock Mass, but they'll be over there getting everything all ready, because that's where the diagram is right over here in this little vestibule area. And so check in there, and then again, we were hoping that even if you have to fill in, that you are adequately and appropriately dressed. So that would just recommend that would just be our standard way of being as we come to Mass. For those who are scheduled for a particular Mass, circle your name on the schedule just outside of the sacristy. The sacristan will help you determine at which station you will be serving the Eucharist during the communion procession. All right, so going back here. So actions during Mass, you're simply participating fully. Notice a couple of other things there under the dress. You should make sure to it that your hands are clean. So before Mass, I would like all who are scheduled to wash their hands. If you carry with you some of that, stuff to put on your hands right beforehand, that would be fine and good as well. They should refrain from using cologne, perfume, or aftershave, especially just as you are coming into the church, because those chemicals can get onto the host itself, and some people are very sensitive to those types of things, so certainly don't overpower that, and best not to use that. And the other thing is that there is no special garb. Now, that doesn't mean you can't wear a cross or something like that, but we just don't have anything that separates you from the rest of the congregation. You'd be wearing whatever you would be wearing as far as that goes. Simple clothes are understandable. Again, even for daily mass, though, I would prefer no shorts, no jeans. That's the one thing that we'd like to exclude. It is a little more casual at daily mass, but even if they are jeans, then that as long as they be long pants is the very best. You may wear a cross. What this directive here is that some places everybody would go to the back and there was a special cross that they would all put on, and everyone would wear the same cross, and that would indicate that they were extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. The bishop does not want us to do that. However, if you have your own personal cross that you like to wear, yes, you may continue to do that. So during the Mass, you're simply attending Mass. You're there participating just like everyone else is doing. When it comes time for Holy Communion, you will be waiting as number 5, the extraordinary ministers should not approach the altar before the priest has received Holy Communion. So as the priest is receiving from the cup, that's when it's time to begin processing in to take your place. If a deacon is present, the priest will give him, the deacon, Holy Communion under both species before giving Holy Communion to the extraordinary ministers. Notice at the top of page 8, to avoid creating confusion, certain practices are to be avoided and eliminated where such have emerged in particular churches, extraordinary ministers receiving Holy Communion apart from the other faithful as though concelebrants. So we're trying to avoid, again, that's the confusion part that some in our church are concerned and worried about. So I think that what we do and the way that we line up here is satisfactory and resolves that. If for some reason we have to change that, even that part, then we'll have to change it at some time in the future. But as of now, I believe that you're not standing there as though concelebrant. The priest will do is distribute Holy Communion, the body of the Christ, to this side over here first. And then after that, we'll then give one of the extraordinary ministers a ciborium to give communion to the altar servers. Now let me just say, we try to designate on the slide where everybody stands, but it doesn't always happen. I know that sometimes I have given you the wrong vessel because I just don't know exactly where you all are standing. And to be honest, as the priest, I'm not as, I know that we'll talk about that a little bit, but if I hand you a ciborium and you are a cupbearer, you know that you are to give communion to the altar servers, and that you can do that, okay? And that's okay. So even if you are a cupbearer for that part, just give communion to the altar servers. And then once you're done, you can put the ciboria back on the altar. And let me just speak about that just a little bit too. You would never take communion from the altar. So you would never take a ciboria or a chalice from the altar. The priest or deacon would always bring communion from the altar and put it in your hands. Okay? But when you are finished, you in fact can put Eucharist or the cup, the chalice, you can put that back on the altar. Don't take it from, you can put it on. And we don't always have deacons at a Mass. Okay, I expect once June 1st comes around that we pretty much are always going to have a deacon serving at Mass. But again, who knows? I mean, they may all choose to be on vacation that same weekend, or there's a deacon retreat, and we have no deacon. So we're going to have to kind of look at how we do this. And one other change that our bishop wants us to do is that the deacons in all of our church documents are identified as ministers of the cup, of the chalice. So it'll no longer be, the priest and the deacon in the front. The deacon will always, from now on, be distributing communion via the chalice. Okay, so that's going to change a little bit how we do things. So let's first of all look at 4 chalices and 4 ciborium with a deacon. This will be the normal way. This will be the normal way that we do communion here at St. Dominic. So the priest is number 1. The deacon is number 8. And so the priest will give communion under the form of the body and the blood to the deacon. And then the priest will go here and give communion to each one of these ministers. And then we'll give one of them, the ciborium, who will in turn give communion to the altar servers over here. While that's happening, the deacon then will be giving the chalices to this first chalice bearer right here, and giving the precious blood to the remaining EMs. The priest will have come over here, giving communion on this side, and then the deacon or the priest will administer the chalices to the appropriate ministers. And again, if because the chalices will come first, if you are a host bearer scheduled to go out and administer the communion under the host, and the priest puts the cup into your hand, the blood of Christ, you say amen, and you take communion, and then you administer communion to the person that is supposed to have the cup, and that person then takes the cup from you as that person receives communion. So that way, when the priest comes around with the ciborium, your hands are empty, and you are able to take the host to go distribute it. You never, ever take communion while holding a vessel, okay? So if you are holding a ciborium, you do not hold this here and then try to do the cup. You never, 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 never do that, okay? And I know that sometimes it gets a little occasionally confusing, but that's just a never. You never do that, okay? And remember, you can always put the ciborium back on the altar, okay? That is something you can do. You just can't take it from the altar. That is for the priest or the deacon to hand it to you.